Now I got to move on to something that's a little bit more serious, but definitely needs to be discussed. That's the on, I believe it was, let me look up this date. I believe it was June 30th. So about 2 weeks ago now. I saw on the news that the Supreme Court had struck down affirmative action. And there could be a big conversation on affirmative action and its merits, whether it was a good program, whether it was ideal for today's day and age and things of that nature. To which I say affirmative action was put in place because black people and people of color, but I'm gonna say black people because we were the predominant people out leading the effort for the change. So me saying black people is not to minimize the other groups. It's just to recognize the group that was the main group pushing for this change. So black folk were protesting and calling for equal treatment and equal rights. And part of that equal treatment and equal rights birth affirmative action. And affirmative action was designed to give us access to colleges that would exclude us based on the color of our skin, not on our educational prowess, but simply we would be eliminated because of the color of our skin. So affirmative action was implemented to truncate. It couldn't kill it because racism is so deep, you can't kill it, at least not in my lifetime. So, but affirmative action was created to truncate or undercut the racism that was keeping blacks and other non-whites out of colleges, universities, prestigious colleges, prestigious universities. That's why HBCUs were invented, because we weren't allowed access into those other campuses. So we created our own. Shout out to A&T and all the other HBCUs out there. Keep doing great work. You are molding young minds. But I bring affirmative action being gutted and struck down by the Supreme Court just to say this. It surprised me and disappointed me, really, how little I heard from the black community on this issue. Because the same crowd, the thing is, the same crowd that's going to convince me it's important to vote and to let my voice be heard when something like this is happening, had nothing to say. So that group had nothing to say. The politicians had nothing to say. And then they're going to circle around and be telling us, and they're going to fear monger us to vote for them when times like this, where they should have done everything in their power to stop it from happening off GP, if nothing else, off of GP. Do you know how many people fought, died, sacrificed in order for that to happen? And as it was getting struck down, the black community just basically gave a collective shoulder shrug, like, what can you do? It reminds me of right here in Fayetteville, when down around the slave market house, they put the Black Lives Do Matter around there because politicians were too scared to just put Black Lives Matter, so they put the Do Matter in there. So and then one day they just tore it up. They just took it up. They didn't have no conversation. They didn't give no heads up. They just took it up. And I found it completely disrespectful to the very community it was supposed to be honoring, because you didn't have any conversation with that community. You didn't ask us how we felt about it. You just took it up. So we talked to our local politicians, and they were willing to put it back down there. But if we don't stand for something, we'll fall for anything. And it also shows the lack of leadership in the black community. But we also know why there is a lack of leadership in the black community, because when you are leader in the black community, they kill you, or they vilify you, or they find some way to undercut you so that your message doesn't resonate or doesn't get a chance to get out. So affirmative action has been gutted. Affirmative action essentially is no more in terms of being a factor into higher education and getting into colleges. That is what it is. But brothers, sisters, listen, lean in. We let that go way too easy. We've been like, what will be next? And when the next one comes, once again, will we give a collective shoulder shrug? So I acknowledge in this process, I have to do a better job. I heard they were, it was going to the Supreme Court. I just really didn't think that. I guess I underestimated it. But check this out. One last point. One last point on this. So we protested in 2020 for better treatment, equal rights, better police treatment from the police enforcement, things of that nature. What have we gotten from that? The George Floyd policing bill went nowhere. The John Lewis Voting Rights Act, what happened with it? Nothing. But in the meanwhile, while those things didn't progress, rights we already had, like affirmative action, got rolled back. So not only did we not get more of what we were asking for, we've actually gotten less as time passed by. Keep that in mind when these Democrats come asking to go to your churches and come asking come asking for your vote. Black folks showed up in record number. We gave them the president. We gave Democrat had the presidency, the House, and the Senate. And keep in mind, and now we have less, not more, less. So when they come knocking, and they will, they're going to say, vote for us, and this is what we'll do the next time. If you just vote for us again, this is what we'll do the next time. What are you doing now? Because what you're doing now, we're getting less. Not even the same. We're getting less. So, all right, let's move on to the next thing. But sometimes you just feel like, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's just like, I don't know. Like, seriously, how do we not get any of those things and end up with less than what we had going into it before we voted these people in? Yeah, but they'll come back and they will fearmonger and they'll tell us, but if you don't, then something, whatever. Okay.